Hello and welcome to the Buildup. This is the podcast for marketing in the construction industry. I'm Dan, the creative director at Dissident. We've been working with construction brands for a number of years. It's an exciting and rapidly evolving industry, and that's why we created a podcast dedicated to the weird and wonderful world of construction marketing. I'll be speaking to leading brands, other agencies, creatives, influencers and startups. This is the resource I wish we had when we first started out in the industry. Thank you for being here and welcome to the Buildup. Welcome to the Buildup. I'm Dan, the creative director at Dissident. We are a social-first creative agency working with construction brands to create hard-hitting content and social media marketing. And today, I'm joined by Scott Bagley. Welcome to the show. Cheers, mate. Thanks so much for coming.
No problem. It's nice to be here.
I don't do intros because I know I almost screwed up your name, as I do for most people. I get the pressure of names really gets to me for some reason. I don't know why. What I'd love for you to do is give a little introduction to yourself, kind of what you do currently, and we'll perhaps go into your history a bit later on.
Yeah, sure. So right now I am a full-time content creator and I produce content which is mainly based around my own project, which is a home renovation. And that is everything from bricklaying, so the real nuts and bolts of construction, all the way to painting walls and hanging picture frames. Not to be offensive to painting and decorators, it's a serious job. But that is literally every single job that's required in a renovation. That's what I create content on.
I love it. And to your point on like hanging pictures and stuff like that, I'm terrified about putting stuff in the walls and to hang pictures. I don't know why. There's a thing about it. In our old studio, I actually got a guy in to come and put pictures up on the walls because I was just too scared. I knew I'd screw up.
Well, you know what's funny? Loads of customers feel the same. So I've done a little bit of work before this content creation with helping people locally with handyman jobs, right? And they're scared of putting pictures up on the wall. Two reasons. One is because they are sure in their mind that they're going to hit a pipe or a cable and it's going to kill them instantly. And then the other thing is getting it level as well.
Yeah.
How to make sure you get a picture level. It changes the whole aesthetics of the room. So it's got to be done right. So yeah.
I mean, there's got to be a job, right, just for picture hangers. Like I'm sure that kind of thing exists in like stately homes and stuff like that, and perhaps even hotels and stuff. But domestic picture hangers, there's got to be a niche there, surely.
Well, I mean, if you kind of know what you're doing with nails and knowing where to find things in walls, then anyone should be pretty okay with that job.
You'd think so.
Yeah.
I'm still struggle though, to be fair.
It helps if you've got a laser level.
Yeah, I'd like a laser.
It really does help. That helps with so many jobs, it's ridiculous.
What's your go-to? Can you speak about that?
Go-to laser level?
Yeah.
I mean, DeWalt laser levels are the best, in my opinion. I have used I can't even remember the brand. It's like a Lasgo laser level. It's quite cheap, but it does the job. And you can get some really cheap ones on Amazon. Really cheap ones.
DeWalt's your one?
Yeah.
Is it DeWalt or DeWalt?
No idea. I know I'm sponsored by them.
I like to say DeWalt.
In their presence, I said DeWalt and DeWalt.
Yeah.
And no one's batted an eyelid.
Yeah.
So I just stick with DeWalt.
Yeah, DeWalt's the one. I quite like to say Caravan as well, as opposed to Caravan. You know what I mean? I extra emphasis on that "an" at the end. I don't know why.
What do you think, Keelan? Caravan?
Caravan.
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 You don't
I
say
like the
tooth,
double.
though, do you? You say tough.
Tough, yeah.
Yeah, so his opinion doesn't count anyway, I'm afraid. By default, he's not allowed to have an opinion.
We're not going to talk about scones and scones.
No, not today. Although it is worth mentioning to the viewers and the audience at home that the award for the least amount of travel time for a guest goes to you, because you are literally 15 minutes down the road?
Yeah, and I was still late.
Yeah, that's okay. So was I.
I always find like the closer you are to where you need to go, the later you'll be.
Yeah.
If you've got a really long journey, you think, I need to add at least 45 minutes onto that, and you're always early.
It's true, actually. I had a mate in uni, and he lived literally one door down from the uni. He was always the last one in.
Yeah.
100%. That's a bit off topic, though. Today we're going to talk about kind of your backstory. I want to figure out how you got to where you are now, and kind of what you've learned along the way, and what you see for the future of yourself and for the industry as a whole. But can you talk us through? So right now you are a full-time content creator. all the major social accounts and stuff you do incredibly well on. What brought you to this point? Because you've not always been into DIY. You've not necessarily always been handy. Am I right?
That's right. Well, I mean, this story doesn't really start as you would expect a content creator story to start, but maybe that's the best way. So, I mean, I kind of went into the world of work after finishing school thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do, like a lot of people. And I ended up doing an apprenticeship program, which was like a 2-week thing where you'd spend time doing different trades. So it was all based around trades. Yeah. It was with a program called PM Training based in Stoke-on-Trent. And in that 2 weeks, I did all different things. And so maybe it was 4 weeks actually. But anyway, I did carpentry, plumbing, all that type of stuff, painting and decorating. And I loved it all, engineering as well. And I also did, as well as all of those trade skills, which is quite strange, marketing. Okay. Marketing was thrown in there.
In the apprenticeship?
In the apprenticeship scheme.
I love it.
Yeah. So anyway, I did all of them, including marketing. And the day come after the 4 weeks to decide what it is that I wanted to do with my life from that point on, big week. And it all depends on if the people that you've done the work for want to work with you as well. So you make your choice and then check if they're okay with it. Anyway, I got feedback saying that they're all happy for me to go and work with them. And I actually really enjoyed all the trade jobs as well. In fact, I enjoyed painting and decorating the most, but that's probably because the lads in there were the most fun at the time. And I was quite young, like I was like 16, 17, something like that. 17. Anyway, but the only person that actually turned up on the day to say, we want you to work with us, it was the marketing manager for this company that called Aspire Housing. It's a housing company. And so I just kind of said, well, they are pretty keen and it pays a little bit more. Yeah. So I'll do it. And that's how I got into marketing. And I came into marketing at a time where it was social media was just becoming a thing, really. So, I mean, I'm 32 now. I was 17 at the time. Is that 2000 and, what is that? Is that 2008?
I have no idea.
Anyway.
Okay.
My maths is terrible. But anyway, it just so happened that I came in right at the beginning of this wave of social media into the corporate world. Yeah. And I just basically went headfirst into it. I was of the age and no one else who was more senior than me. I was doing an apprenticeship, knew anything about social media. Yeah. So I just dove into it and the career just happened there in marketing. So I did that for 13 years. The problem is, although I was good at the job and I got some really big jobs in marketing as well, like for global brands and multiple brands. It was fantastic.
Still at Aspire, was this?
No, so I moved on from Aspire after being there for about 4 years or so. Okay. And they paid for me to get a uni qualification as well, which was fantastic. And then I went on to a private, so that was a third sector company. I went on to a private company, which was product marketing. And that was really nice insight for me how fast paced that needed to be. Really,
not agency though, right?
Not agency directly. That was Riedel. I'm not going to name all the companies I've worked for, but yeah. And anyway, and then I moved from there to another job, which was like a global group company. It was a massive opportunity, and I just massively flourished at that as well. And my job essentially became looking after social media accounts for these big brands and looking after the influencer teams, sourcing influencers, working with them to produce content on behalf of the brands and building those profiles.
And what kind of year was this? This is like in the infancy of influencer marketing?
Yeah, so this kind of went in from, we should probably work out what those dates are, to be honest. So if I...
Let me get my calculator.
Get your calculator out. It's 2024 now. Take away 13 years.
2024 minus 13.
It should be dead easy.
2011.
Yeah, 2011. I said 2008.
Listen, you don't become a content creator and a creator because you're good at maths.
Exactly.
That happens afterwards.
Yeah, that happens afterwards. Yeah.
So 2011.
2011. That's when I came in. Social media was booming, and then eventually, as I moved through these companies, I found a niche that I was particularly good at, really enjoyed, and because it was all creative, like I've always been a creative person. But the problem is those jobs didn't really resonate with me personally on one very significant level, and that was because it wasn't physical enough. I've always been like a very physical person, so I would always go to the gym after work, and it would frustrate me that I was sat behind a desk a lot of the time. You know, I'd beg for days when I can get out of the office and go and talk to people.
Yeah,
I'm also
networking or something.
yeah, I'm also a very talkative person as well. So those two things went hand in hand. Anyway, as you know, time went on, I was still in marketing, and I had a bit of a wobble, and I left marketing thinking, right, I need to go and do something else, but I don't know what it is. I was fortunate to have a bit of cash in the bank, so I thought I'd take 6 months off and really like assess my life, who I am, what I want to do, that type of thing. In the meantime, whilst I was doing that, I just kind of did a PT job at Pure Gym, just because I loved the gym and all that type of stuff, and I really enjoyed that. That was really cool. But then COVID hit whilst I was doing that part-time job, and it shut all the gyms. So I thought, you know what, enough thinking. I haven't thought about what it is that I want to do. So I went back into marketing, and that's when I needed to buy my first house. COVID came, and the landlord of the house we were staying in needed to sell or wanted to sell. And me and my partner had to move. We found out my partner was pregnant as well, just as we...
That's handy.
Yeah. Just as we'd found the house that we wanted to move into, and it happened to be a full renovation, and it was the top end of our budget.
Yeah.
And we had no room for making any of those amendments that we needed. So I just kind of went ahead with it anyway. Because the bank had already signed off on it and we needed a place to live. So yeah, I just started kind of doing my own DIY. And that's kind of the story of how I got all of my social media expertise, the influencer stuff. I had a real good insight from the corporate standpoint, you know, from the business side. And that was the beginning of my physical journey, which is the construction stuff that I love doing.
So So when you started doing the renovations, did the renovations, they had to happen anyway? And there was always an intention of you doing them, was there?
No. So I was in a position where we had this baby come in, and I think it was 5 months from the day we moved in to when my partner gave birth. So I had to make as many changes to this house that would make it livable as possible. You need a full rewire, everything like that. Luckily, by this point, whilst I was doing that, whilst I had that 6 months off, I was doing the electrician's qualification. So I was learning about the physicality of like the build of a house and all that sort of stuff, and learning about wiring a house. So when I moved into the house, I thought it'd be a good place for me to start giving it a go, and also all the other little jobs on the side as well. And it was like removing floors, putting floors back, you know, taking off old plaster, taking off old paper, wallpaper, that type of stuff. So I did that to a point where my partner gave birth, and then the house was better, but not anywhere near like we wanted it. And the kitchen was pretty much unusable, and it had a very tiny extension on the back, which was so badly insulated. It had no cavity either. That the tiny radiator we had in that room, it was freezing in there the whole time. And with a newborn baby in the house and my partner, I just thought, well, why not knock that down and leave it open for 6-7 months, you know? But no, the reality is, like, I was just seeing like pound notes flying out the back door because of all the expensive gas and electricity at the time. I knew that wasn't going to come down, you know, so I'd have to do something about it. So I got a few builders round, and I decided, and I asked them, would you be able to get onto this project, and how fast can you do it, and what's the price going to be? And I got some massive quotes, some like 35 grand, stuff like that, for someone with no money and no real way of getting that money either. It was almost an impossibility, but I knew it needed to be started. But one of the builders just said to me, tell you what, I could start in a few months' time, but it would be much quicker if you would dig the footings. And he said, I know that sounds crazy, but literally all you're doing is like knocking that building down there. There's nothing structural about it. And then just digging a trench in the ground. And he told me the dimensions I'd need to dig, and I can get a building regulations company to check it. And then he can come in and do the rest. Anyway, I did that. And he just said, well, you've come this far. Why don't you just, you know, try and do a little bit more? And then, so I did. So I just started learning how to bricklay and And it just started. I just started building this extension.
And during that process, are you documenting pretty much the whole thing at that point on social media?
Well, I moved into the house not thinking about documenting anything, and then I did a build in the garden, which was like a bit of a brick garage extension.
Okay.
And I did that as like a trial run, really, kind of like, what can I do? This is a bit of fun. We need that, and that went really well. And it was only at that point I kind of thought, I need to start recording what I'm doing, because I'm going to forget this in the future. I'm going to forget the struggles and the time I went through in order to do this thing with no experience. So I'm going to record it for myself. And then when I had some footage all together, I kind of thought one day, and I was at a new marketing job at this point, and I'd been there for like a year, and I was on my lunch break, and I thought, I've just made some good videos for this company. I'm going to make one for myself, using the footage of this build that I've just done, and I'm just going to find a trending audio and put that over the top of it. And I posted that on TikTok, which is the first ever video I posted on any platform for myself, and that went viral.
Cool. First one,
yeah. Okay, it's a hit.
One and done. You know what I mean? That's it. First viral video.
Yeah. And you know what? I've had some negativity around that.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people saying like, why you've come out of nowhere, you've got all this followers, and I've been doing this for 10 years or whatever, and all that. And like, or 5 years or 4 years, whatever. And then I just reply back, well, I've been doing this for 13 years.
Yeah.
Ever since social media was a thing, I've been doing this for brands.
Yeah, you just haven't seen my feed hasn't been here. Okay. Yeah. It's I know it's one of them kind of things. It's just like you can't fathom the negativity especially on TikTok, but on social media in general, people just want to complain.
Yeah,
and it's like, just move along with your life. Do you know what I mean? Stop comparing.
Yeah.
And would you know what's funny is I never expect it from tradies. I've always, there's just kind of that thing of that, you expect tradies to be kind of humble and kind of like helpful and caring and in support of their fellow, like a man or trade, whatever. But then you just get the keyboard warriors. They exist everywhere and in every possible industry, don't they?
And I've seen my fair share of them.
I bet.
I've experienced every way that someone can be negative and positive, I think, online.
Yes.
And that has definitely had an impact on me. And in a way that like now, maybe I haven't been doing it that long, but I do feel completely desensitized to any comment that anyone makes. Yes. Someone could be saying, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. You've changed my life because I've gone and done this, that, and the other. And that will be almost like over my head. And it's exactly the same for all of the bad stuff that people say. It's over my head. It really, the only time I think anyone could ever, and I'm going to say this and then people are going to try to start doing this, but the only time someone could ever really knock me in a way is if it's someone that clearly really knows their stuff.
Yes.
And makes a very good point in the comments that I have actually done something wrong and I shouldn't be showing other people that because it's actually wrong.
Yes.
Which hasn't happened. Because I do a lot of research before I do anything to make sure that what I'm putting out there, is safe. It is okay to do. It might not be the best way of doing it. I haven't been in the trade that long, but it's not wrong and it's not unsafe.
You know what? I'm finding more and more that we work with tradespeople rather than brands. Because when you work with a brand, you get to learn. Let's say we didn't have any interaction with tradespeople, and we work with a brand. We get to understand what their product does. We get to know the applications, but we don't get to understand the nuances of the applications and of the different creative ways that product can be used. And I've said this a number of times, like trades and DIY. It's really just creativity. It's just about problem solving, isn't it? And it's amazing. I watch videos of. Mark Tiff's a really good example. I watched some of his videos on YouTube, and he's like, I've just found out this way of doing this. And I'm like, I'd usually do it this way, but now I've figured out that I can do it this way. What do you guys think? Do you know any other ways? And you see in the comments all the other ways that could have been done.
Yeah.
And it's like, no way. Like there's so much subjectivity in building and maintenance. And
I love that.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I love it when I see someone with a little trick that just makes things so much easier. And you see that. And again, that coming back to what you said at the beginning of this podcast, it was literally about how people are making content as a builder, and who are they making that content for? Are they making it for a customer, or are they making it for a brand, or other tradies just like themselves? Yeah. And if they're making it for all three, that's great. You know.
Yeah, it's I think it's amazing. So we've got to the point where you started to document the stuff that you're doing on social media, so the stuff you're doing with the build, with the renovation, which you're still living in, right?
Yeah.
Is there a pivotal point where you go, I'm going to go full bore on this and actually make something of this?
100%.
Do you have like a little sort of like light bulb moment where you go, I could do this?
Yeah, the light bulb moment was a crazy moment in my life, and it's something that me and my partner will always remember. It was literally like game changing in a day. So I can remember. It was just straight after Christmas, and maybe the second day or first day back at work in my marketing job, and I was dreading going back, like everyone does. Yeah. But like I had this real pit about going back. It wasn't. I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do long term, and there was the extension was pretty much done at that point. So I hadn't rendered the exterior or finished the interior at all, but the exterior was done. And I got a load of messages after posting a TikTok, which reached 7.5 million people at the time, about how much it cost me to make this extension. Yeah. It cost £9,200 to build an extension. And that was just materials. Okay. And that blew up online. Got some hate as well on that, just because of, builders charging a lot more, but they need to, because it's labor and that's how they get paid. Yeah,
that's just the material cost.
Yeah, I think they missed that a little bit though. But anyway, I got loads of inquiries from like national press basically. I was on the radio, and I had loads of these like little like interview type things set up. And it was that moment when my partner said to me, I was just about to go on the radio, and she says, you need to make an Instagram account right now, like right now. Yeah. Because, and this is like half an hour before I'm about to go on radio. Never been on radio before in my life. And she said, like, people are going to look you up straight away whilst you're talking. So get it done right now. And I was starting to panic. I was like, got this account made.
Because you were purely TikTok at that
Purely
point.
TikTok, right. Yeah. And the reason why I started on TikTok is because it's more of a community where you can talk with people. Okay. So originally my content was like, this is what I'm doing. And if any experts out there know I could do it better or could give me advice for the next step, please do. So I might make a video saying, builders of TikTok, I need your help. Yeah. I've got these bricks in front of me, but they don't measure the same. And I need to know how to lay them properly. And I'd get responses. And that built a really warm community, So going back to the question of when was that day, it was literally the maybe 3rd or the 5th of January. I think it might have been the 5th of January. And I handed my notice in. Okay. And I was on radio 2 days later, I think it was. And I started this Instagram account on the same day as the radio. I started posting some of my posts from TikTok on Instagram, just so it was like a portfolio. And within, I don't know, a week, I had like 70K followers. And then, and another week went by and it was like 100K. It really went through the roof. And I think that's just because people resonated with the journey that I was on. Yeah.
And do you think that because that's massive growth, 70K is absolutely insane. In a year, let alone anything shorter than that. Were there like other factors that kind of led to that? Like you mentioned, like you were on radio and stuff. Were there sort of other things kind of feeding the Instagram and feeding the interest, or was it purely organic?
It was an absolute perfect storm of media channels. Okay. So I already had a reputation and a following on TikTok. At that point, I think I was at 60K followers on TikTok. Not too bad. That's
good.
Yeah. I had 60K followers and I had loads of content backed up. I was brand new to Instagram. And there's a thing with the algorithm on Instagram. If you create an account and you don't post for a long time, it kind of puts you in a category. Whereas if you open an account and just start posting quite freely, it means you're very active, right? So I had all this content and I was posting like a piece of viral content every day. So I knew that content was already viral because it had done so well on TikTok. And I was posting a viral piece of content every single day, and people were literally flooding in to watch it.
That's genius.
The other side of the coin is traditional marketing, the PR side. All of national media was talking about this guy who just built an extension with no experience. And I don't mean all of national media, like it was everywhere. And then obviously there was the radio, and I was on GB News as well, like actual, on webcam. So it was kind of, it just went massive.
So that hook then for the audience, this guy with no experience has built an extension for $9,000. Was that unheard of? Were you aware of the importance of that at the time? Were you like, when you started doing this, were you like, no one's ever done this before? It's just complete accident. You just did it.
Yeah, honestly, I had to do this extension in my mind. Yeah, in my mind, I had to do this extension because the house was in such bad shape. We were losing all this heat. We were paying loads of bills. Like, it needed to be done. I felt like I could do it. My partner also said she felt like I could do it as well, with absolutely no proof because I'd never done it before. But I was just willing. And so I just kind of cracked on with it. And it took me a long time. And I had this amazing community of people on TikTok, which I'll always be grateful for, because they did help me out through some like really difficult spots, difficult questions that I couldn't find the answers for on places like YouTube.
So the interesting thing is, because your journey started on TikTok, and it's essentially grown from there. So you started off on TikTok. Your partner mentioned that you should probably start an Instagram, and you've rushed to start an Instagram. You started posting on that, and I've got your stats as of yesterday. They may have gone up since then. 36.5K on YouTube.
Yeah,
respectable.
Thanks.
190K on TikTok. It's pretty insane, right?
I think it's 191 today.
And 191. 81K on Facebook, which is the one that everyone's trying to get away from, but actually I think it's kind of it's creeping back. 408K on Instagram, again, potentially more today because I checked these numbers yesterday. Like, was there a strategy to go big on Instagram? Because that's a big difference. 190K on TikTok, which was your first platform, and then 408K as a result. Did you put more of your eggs into Instagram, or is Instagram one of those things that's easier to build, or does it suit your content more? Like, why are the numbers so different on that, do you think?
Well, Instagram, so I'd already built a really nice warm community on TikTok. So when I went over to Instagram, I knew that I had a lot of viral videos, but I didn't have that longevity of conversation and community building on there. So that was my priority once I started that account, to obviously keep TikTok flowing as it was normally, but to build a warm community on Instagram as well. Yeah. Because what I didn't want to happen, which does happen to some people, is they have all these viral videos and it goes through the roof, and then all of a sudden they start losing followers because that one little story that they did isn't interesting anymore. It's the one thing. So I wanted to build a really warm community. So I did kind of lean more into Instagram. Right. And as a result, it did pick up a lot of followers. I think the reason why TikTok hasn't followed suit, there was a massive TikTok algorithm change, which you'll hear every single content creator talk about, which was when they brought in their content creator program, like it's like a beta payment program or something. I don't really know the proper name for it, but essentially it's a new payment method for paying content creators based on views.
Oh, okay.
And when that came in and content had to be over 1 minute long, that changed the game on that platform. And they brought in loads of adverts and stuff. And my love for that platform slowly died away. Not for the people and, providing the content still, but for the way the platform was going. Whereas Instagram, I was finding that the people in the comments were very well-meaning. So they might not have been. It might not be as savage community, and savage meaning like purely truthful what people think and they tell you what it's not that type of savage, but it's very much like high positivity on Instagram. So it was a nice place to be, and I was making content for Instagram mainly then.
You'd rather be there. If there's a kind of hostile environment over here and a nice place to be over here with some warm and lovely people, I want to be over there. But I'm right in saying Instagram currently it's not a paid platform. You can't get revenue from Instagram at all. You can for Facebook, you can through YouTube, as you can from TikTok. So it's an interesting kind of, because you could have made some money there, couldn't you? And I'm sure you do in terms of like TikTok and YouTube, and you have that ability to do that. But even still, you've kind of gone, actually, these are my people over here. A place where I'm not going to make any money from the actual platform. Which is interesting. So that was a good point. But you still keep all these profiles ticking over. You're still making content for each of those. In terms of like because you're one person. I'm sure you get little bits of help from here and there and support. Do you have a completely different content strategy for each platform? I mean, specifically, I get YouTube's long form as a rule, apart from your shorts and stuff like that. Do you cross-pollinate like from TikTok and Instagram and stuff? Is that part of your strategy, or is everything unique to each platform?
So if I had the time, it'd be unique. I know exactly what works on what platform and what doesn't. And I kind of have to choose one platform to prioritize over any other. At the moment, I'm prioritizing Instagram first content. Instagram first content's a little bit more curated, higher quality, and it's just it's a nice way of storytelling. It's a nice place to be, like I said before. Whereas TikTok is more conversational, a bit more raw. And I'd love to be able to do that type of content. In fact, it takes half the time it does on Instagram. But I've got to spend my time somewhere, and I'm putting it into Instagram at the moment. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm staying true to what I personally want to do when it comes to delivering my content, my journey, my story. And although that might not always result in the best views and the best engagement, what I need to do is create a profile that accurately reflects what it's like for somebody to go through a renovation as a DIYer. And that's going to be important for me many years in the future, because I want to be able to look back on this. I want to look back on these videos and go, that is genuinely what I thought and did at the time. I don't want to sugarcoat that. This is really a vlog. It's a time capsule of stuff that I did.
I think it's got to be the longevity of it is a huge part of this as well, isn't it? So and what I mean by that is if you're trying to create content for Instagram, which you actually enjoy making, and that's your favored and more natural way of making content, and but then there's a strategy for TikTok which is less aligned with your not values, but you know what I mean, like what you enjoy more. It can become harder to maintain that if you're trying to do all of those kinds of things. Whereas I think you're right. If you prioritize, and a lot of brands will do this as well, because they don't have the budget necessarily to have specific strategies and completely separate content for each platform. They'll prioritize one, but it's still good to show up in the other ones.
But I mean, the thing is like, it started off with a priority on TikTok, and a brand could do exactly the same. So like when I've worked for companies, we prioritize an account. We have so much time and resources, that's staff time, video time, everything, money to pay influencers. We have to choose a platform and then just focus on whatever that is going to be. And then once you've had success there, you feel like you've built that audience, you've completed the goals that you had in mind. Move on to the next one. And for me, that next one now is YouTube.
Long form. I love a bit of long form. I love storytelling. And I'm excited for this kind of resurgence of long form, because I'm the guy that's on the telly, like my YouTube's on my TV, and I'm like in the evenings watching it on my TV. I love my long form stuff, my 15-minute, 20-minute videos.
I'm exactly the same.
That's my television. Like
Yeah.
I like, and when I run out of stuff to watch on my recommended and my subscriptions on YouTube, I'm like, what am I going to do for the rest of the evening? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what do I do? What do I do in my life now?
Maybe read a book.
Yeah, I should read a book.
I'm joking.
I just like reached for the Xbox, for the PlayStation controller last night. I was like, I'll have a little look at this.
Yeah.
So massive success across multiple platforms and building a great community. Are there certain things that you've done along those lines? Let's specifically talk about Instagram because it's easier to pinpoint one. Are there certain things that you've done to make that happen in terms of either tactics, strategies, consistency? Like, are there certain elements of your content and what you've put into place that's meant that you've had that success?
Yeah, I mean, the success comes from the main element, which is storytelling. And storytelling is something I've invested in a lot in my own learning. So when I first started this journey, I was under the impression that the way I spoke and my accent was seen as a negative. And that is definitely the way I came into this journey. And there was a guy, Vinny something. He does workshops on TikTok mainly about speaking confidently in front of people. I never did one of the workshops, but one of his videos triggered me into starting the storytelling, which I'm known for today. Which is basically, if you think that you're bad at talking to people, you can change that. You're not born that way. It is something you can learn and improve on. And all you have to do is practice it. And I don't know why I needed to be told that, but for some reason I did. And when he in this, after watching that TikTok video, I sat back, I was like, oh, I could be good at that. So then I started literally practicing, getting a camera, talking to my phone. Stories, Instagram stories has helped me improve a lot. And that's just helped me refine the way that I deliver anything. And that's how I've been able to deliver this high quality storytelling through my social media platforms. Massive amounts of practice and research into what goes into telling a story.
And you are, everyone knows you as the person that they could listen to go to sleep. Like that, people love your voice. And I've never known people say anything particularly nice about the Stoke accent.
No.
I think you're like an anomaly for people in Stoke that just they love your voice.
I don't understand it because I always saw, when I was in the corporate world as well, I always saw my voice as an issue. Right, I know that sounds crazy, but I remember so many times sitting in meetings, especially like when I go abroad. Like I used to have to go to New York a lot, and we'd all be in like a big boardroom, very important people there. And as soon as I start speaking, and not just because they're American or whatever, it was almost like no matter what I said, they would switch off a little bit. And I think it was down to the accent. And I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was. So back then, even in an office environment, I'd find a way of creating a hook. And in the same way that you create a hook for a social media video, like, I can't believe that removing one brick can make your whole house fall down. That's a hook, right? And how do you hook people's attention in a corporate environment as well? Because you need to. The boss hears and speaks to lots of different people. And if you want to pitch a new idea, you've got to get his attention. Did you realize that influencer marketing can increase our visibility by 2 million views and we only have to spend 10 grand to do it? That's a hook in a corporate environment because then your boss is listening and you've got to have the information to back it up. So that's kind of like where I started learning those hooks and actually trying to improve my delivery.
Build tactics around the fact that you didn't have confidence in your own voice and accent. And yet people actually love it.
Yeah, which is bonkers. Yeah.
I remember the first time, I think the first time I met you was at an event that one of our clients was putting on. And it was the Home Improvements channel. They were there, and they were like, "You need to speak to Scott. He's got the most beautiful voice ever." And then I was like, "Oh, he's speaking to someone at the moment." I think you were on the row in front of us on the bus on the way back to the hotel, and I could hear you talking. I'm like, sounds like he's from Stoke. And I've got Molly with me, who's like 5 minutes down the road from me. She lives around the corner. So people on Dissident will know her voice relatively well. And yeah, it was such a mad kind of thing. I'm like, it's just like he's down the road from Molly and 10 minutes down the road from our studio. And small world, but even back then, they were like, his voice is so amazing. I could just listen to him for hours. And then you were sold on the fact that you people didn't like it.
Yeah, but I don't know whether that's because I trained it to be this way.
Oh, right, okay.
Like I don't know. I don't have anything to reference my voice against it from the past because I would purposely never be in front of a camera.
No.
Like I never had any experience of that in the corporate environment. Never had to talk about anything on camera. So it was literally just like learning how to talk, not erming and ahhing every time I spoke. It's something that anyone can practice. And maybe that is the thing that's escalated it. Maybe.
And to be fair, we don't have to say everything nice about the Stoke accent and the Stoke voice. There's some wailing, screeching Stokies knocking about, isn't there? We all know them. You know what I mean? Like at the school gates.
Yeah.
But as a rule, I think the Stoke accent, especially like a really soft one like yours, is like really endearing. I think people outside of, not that your whole the whole of this podcast should be about the value of Scott's accent, but I think people outside sort of think of it as somewhere between like sort of Liverpool and like West Midlands or something like that. I was in Teesside the other day, and these guys were adamant they didn't sound like Geordies. I'm like, you're having a laugh on you, you know what I mean? But actually, it's like somewhere between like Geordie and Leeds or something like that. It's just
it's definitely something that I've got in mind that I want to go into more. Like if people like my voice and that's just a general consensus, then I'd definitely like to go into doing more. I've done a radio advert. So that again, it's that endearing thing, maybe a trustworthy northerner voice, because that's
children's
what they go
books,
for. Children's books, anything, I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be wicked.
It's just a bit of fun at the end of the day.
I love it. I think you'd be great at that. So I watch your content and I find it really interesting. And you mentioned storytelling, and when I watched your films, I think about all the planning that's involved with the setting up of these shots and the fact that you are one person, kind of filming this stuff and the challenges around that. Can you talk to us about the challenges of having this kind of storytelling mentality? Is there a lot of planning and what does that look like?
Well, I mean, I read something not long ago. It was about influencers and burnout. And apparently 73%, I think I'm remembering that right, have suffered burnout and therefore leave the social media content creation game for good because it's that intense, right?
My YouTube subscriptions is completely dead at the moment. I don't know whether yours is the same, but like a year ago, it was like the heyday of like YouTube. And like these days, I'm like, where's my favorite creators? They've gone.
I know it sounds bonkers, and it would sound bonkers to me if I wasn't a content creator as well. The people who are an influencer could suffer burnout because it seems like such an amazing way of life. You get to do what you want all the time. But actually, what you've just alluded to there, with the level of planning that goes into not only the physical project of doing the DIY job and learning about how all that works, to then moving the camera around for all the different angles and just, the audio of it all as well, because you need to capture some ASMR. It is hard. I'm working 7 days a week at the moment. And I'm not saying this for anyone to have sympathy for me. No. Like I'm living my dream at the moment, but I am working hard for it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not an easy ride, is it? And you have to, a lot of these guys, especially people like yourself, who aren't just like, you're a really good kind of metaphor or an anti-metaphor for your type of content is that the opposite of run and gun. You know what I mean? This is pre-thought out, pre-planned content that's got a story attached to it. You could almost write the script ahead of time and figure out the shots from there. That's a video production company's like skill set. But for your perhaps skill set prior to doing this has probably been quite helpful. But for a lot of guys who don't have a media degree and stuff like that, it's got to be a massive challenge for them and something they're not used to, and there'll be a lot of doubt in their heads about what they're what they're doing, if they're doing it right,
massive
and what's working and stuff like that. And so not only have you got to do all that kind of stuff, also you got to film yourself and actually get it right, get the thing right. I mean, it's okay to make mistakes, obviously, in DIY and construction, but ideally you want to be seen as doing a good job of the thing that you're doing, especially if it's your actual trade. So yeah, hugely difficult. But your type of content compared to someone who's just doing lots of cutaways and transitions, and it's kind of moving and sexy, and that's great content again. But it's kind of, for that kind of stuff, there's still a lot of planning, but there's more room for error.
It's originality, right? So again, and I've had a lot of people, including other influencers, say to me, "Why don't you just make it a little bit easier for yourself and make some videos which are just really fast paced, nice camera angles, ASMR type stuff?" And I do that sometimes when I'm planning the next thing in the run of content, just to keep things going. But for me, my content creation journey is all about creating original content that I haven't seen elsewhere. Okay, I might pull some ideas in from other places online, like everyone does, but I'm not copying and pasting, doing my own thing and getting it right and making, because the doubt comes in, just like you said, you doubt yourself. So I want to push myself to the nth degree and find that I am good and back that up, by success. And that kind of comes through to different types of content creators that businesses work with, and what are they actually paying for? When a business works with me, they're paying for somebody who is thinking about it from a story film perspective. So I'm giving a feel for the product or brand as well as showing it and talking through it. I also have the authenticity of my account as well, which I'll never be bought out. I only use things that I believe in, and that all plays into my type of content creation. Whereas there are other content creators who might just take a picture of a floor that's just been laid, or just do some nice shots of mixing up the adhesive. And although that does make very quick viral content, giving virality, but it doesn't stick in someone's mind. That content is there 1 minute, gone the next. And and one of the reasons why I'm going more towards YouTube is because I want a legacy. I want to put that storytelling and high quality content creation and DIY and construction into a long-term format. And I think the only way to really do that and really get good at it is YouTube long form.
And I honestly feel like YouTube influencers, let's call them that, because it's easier for the world to understand, but I would consider some of the guys that I follow on YouTube not to be influencers, but they technically are. They influence a lot of people, but they're essentially a channel, a content creator. Those guys, if they say I've got this and it's interesting, I'm already on Amazon. I'm getting that thing. It's such a valuable, because you I don't know, you almost build more of a relationship with the audience on YouTube, and vice versa. Like that, there's people on YouTube, I'm just desperate for them to make a film, and even if they make a film about something I'm not that interested in,
you want to catch up.
I love it. I love YouTube so much, and Instagram is a great platform, and I think the two combined are great, because obviously you can do shorter pieces of content, which means you can do more content on Instagram, and that's really, really cool. But I'm excited for the YouTube stuff.
But that's where TikTok started for me. It was all about that community and what's the next step in that journey. A stable platform is YouTube over TikTok for sure.
So storytelling content, that content will of course vary. You want to mix it up every now and again. You want to change some stuff up. You want to be not creating the same thing over and over again. Are there particular trends and I'm using the word trend lightly, in the types of content that your audience is engaging with more these days? For instance, like are you doing certain things that you go, oh, that this is getting more engagement than usual, or whatever? Are you noticing certain areas of your content being like more not positive, but you know what I mean?
It depends again what you're classing. So if we're looking at success factors, what success factors are we looking at? Is it reach? Is it engagement? And what's the sentiment? Is it saves? Are people saving it because it's, wow, I can't let that go. I need to come back to that.
That's interesting.
And that's something I think about when I'm making the video. So I will usually make a video for either max views, which help me reach new people and open me up to a larger audience. Those are usually quite generic videos, which might be seasonal based content around something that a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah.
An example of that might be, just thinking off the top of my head, it's autumn, leaves fall in autumn. What's the fastest way to get all the leaves off your drive? And I've come up with that solution, and you're going to watch it.
Yeah.
That's your viral view. Someone's going to watch that and go, wow, that was cool. Next.
Yes.
And then maybe forget about it. Yeah. And then you've got the engagement, which is, I'm just about to put the top on a bench, and I've got these two different types of wood. And I think I've chosen this one because I like the color, but I'm not sure how much it's going to perform. If you know anything about this type of timber, make sure you comment, because I really need that help.
Yeah.
There's your engagement piece. And then the saving piece is all about, like, this is how I've made a coffee corner out of, £50 worth of materials, start to finish. And then someone's going to watch that and go, I could do that myself, save.
Yes.
And that also can be viral. They all can merge a little bit into the others, but the intention is there when I make the video.
Okay, that's interesting. And then if you took all of those together, I know we've got different factors of like what we class as engagement. What do you think kind of subjectively your audience enjoys the most? Like your fans, like what kind of stuff are they coming back for over and over again?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because do you know what it is? It sounds horrible, and this isn't necessarily on you. I like to see you suffer and then see how you come through.
Yeah.
It's that kind of hero arc of just like, he's come across a problem, but I know his wife, his partner or wife, and daughter have got to get. But they're coming home and he's got to fix this before. I'm like, is he going to do it? That kind of thing.
Yeah. So I also, sometimes I'll start doing it with no idea what the story is going to look like. Sometimes I have to do the project and then the story just emerges as I'm doing it. I knew that I was on a time scale with a particular project and it had to be done before my partner gets home. So obviously the storyline that's going to keep someone hooked is that really classic storyline. This comes back to learning about storytelling of hero meets problem. Problem is almost too much to overcome, but then he does overcome it and everyone's happy at the end. You can change that a couple of different ways, but that's the way. And so you can weave that into your content for sure. But what are they coming back for? To be honest, I think a lot of people are coming back to check in. Like you just said with YouTube. And because it's a very long series that people have followed for now 2 years, they're literally coming back, not for a particular project, but literally to see what I'm doing next. The familiar face online that they know. And I share a lot through stories as well. So people get the BTS as well. Yeah. Of like in the moment, oh no, I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, I've just made a mistake, that type of stuff. Yeah.
I like that. It's nice to hear that kind of like, like this stuff that works and this stuff that like brands like to see, but what's the stuff your fans want to see? You know what I mean? Like, because a lot of the time sometimes you just have to make stuff for your audience, regardless of whether it's going to have any particular metrics or whatever. But then how do you get those metrics? How do you get enjoyment, the metric? You know what I mean?
Yeah. How do you understand why they're coming back? The only way I've been able to think about it is that they just want to catch up and see what I'm doing. And there's definitely types of content that go more viral than others. Yes. And that is the relatable, seasonal, based content. It's something that's hard hitting right now that most people are struggling with. Yeah,
absolutely. Last question before I want to get into like probably what is the most valuable piece of content, I guess, from this episode. Is there some stuff that you've tried in the past that's flopped and that you will never do again? You know, so that other people can learn from your mistakes. There's certain things that you think, I'll give this a try, and you go either didn't work in terms of like numbers, or it didn't work because it wasn't right for me.
Yeah. And I've got a funny story.
Okay.
I went to the Audi dealership by Britannia Stadium, and I was talking to the guy there. We were actually getting a car for my dad, not me. And he was telling us a story. He had no idea what I did for a living, but he was telling us a story about how he'd had a TikToker girl come to the showroom and say, I want an Audi RS6. Mm-hmm. And he was like, oh, are you sure that's the one that you want? Are you sure that's because it was a young girl, he said she's probably about 18 or something like that. Are you sure that's the one that you want? And she was like, yeah, that's definitely the one I want. And he was like, well, you do realize, you know, it's a lot of money. And she was just like, well, my accountant says I can do it because of my TikTok's doing really well. Anyway, she had it. I've started the story and I can't remember the question.
What have you done that's flopped?
Yeah, okay, yeah. And so I was like, when he was telling me this story, I was like, what is that girl doing online that's getting her this RS6? Like, whatever she's doing, I'm going to give a go. That is a no-brainer. And he said that it was selling products through TikTok Shop. Okay. And I knew about that already, and I'd seen that people are having success with it, but I didn't know how much success. Mm-hmm. Anyway, there was a couple of times where I made content specifically to sell a product. Okay. And maybe it's the way I delivered it, the lack of authenticity maybe came through. Maybe that was a me thing. Mm-hmm. Don't know. But either way, those videos absolutely dropped off a cliff, and they're the worst videos I've ever posted.
No way.
And and it was worth a try, but it's not for me.
Exactly. Well, this is the thing with marketing. As you know, it's test.
Yeah.
Test, and if it didn't work, it's great. Move on. I'm better for knowing that now, because let's be honest. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with selling on TikTok. I think it's absolutely fine. We're all here to make a living.
Yeah.
How you do it is completely up to you. And I find there's a lot of snobbery in the social media world that I think is, I keep saying the word objectively today. What's wrong with me, Keelan? Silly. I just sort of think, well, we're all kind of businesses here.
Yeah.
Your tactics on how you make a living is entirely up to you. I can give you some unsolicited advice on how that's perceived in the wider world, but do you? I don't see it being an issue. There's quite a lot of people that take issue on like boosting posts and stuff. I just sort of think, let them do it. Who cares? You know what I mean?
I mean, I literally would do what you want when it comes to that type of selling or boosting or anything like that. It works for your business. It works for your business. I have always taken the Mr. Beast strategy that if people aren't watching your content, it's because it's shit. And that's just the truth.
Yeah.
It is true. Like, you're not getting 1 million views. You're not worth 1 million views. Simple as that.
Absolutely.
And you can cry about it, or you can get better at it.
Yeah. That's a really, really good point. One of the things though that I've often had to struggle with brands. So you've got, let's say we put, and this is kind of hopefully going to lead me really nicely into my next question. You have these two types of content, and as the owner of a social media agency, I have to kind of educate our clients on things. There's content that's engaging that gets you nothing. Mm-hmm. There is no net result, positive result from this particular content, regardless of the fact that it's actually got a lot of engagement. And there's content that's incredibly valuable from the point of view of selling a particular product that gets zero engagement because it's not the engagement isn't needed on that post. It's not required. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I've always felt like has had to be kind of educated into our clients, because we typically make the content that gets very little engagement as an agency. It will still get some. It will still get great, decent numbers, nowhere near an influencer's numbers, because your content is almost like reliant on to some extent engagement, views, clicks, likes, and stuff like that. Whereas we can put like a glossy ad out or an advertisement for a particular product. It doesn't need. Obviously, it's great if it does get engagement, but for the most part, we're educating the audience on this is a cool new product, and some of the best ads you ever see get very little engagement, but it still worked.
Yeah.
I wasn't compelled to go, great tool. You know what I mean? Oh, I like these.
Yeah,
you know, it just didn't. This content like that just kind of doesn't work, and I'm okay with that. But it kind of leads me on to the next question, because you kind of worked in both areas. You are now a content creator that makes your own content for your audience, but also for and with paid kind of brand deals and stuff like that. That's how content creators make a living a lot of the time, or through like ad revenue.
Yeah.
But you've been on the side of marketing brands, and you understand the like how brands have to go between the kind of glossy content, promo, catalogs, all that kind of stuff. How do you feel like influencer content, and let's call it dissident content, for lack of a better word, even though we work a lot with content creators in our own work, let's assume that we only ever made like glossy stuff with models, for instance. How do those two kind of fit together in a modern world, especially in the construction industry, which is kind of in its infancy when it comes to things like this? Like, I think this is a really good educational point.
Oh man, so there's a lot to unpack with what you've just said. So we can get into it. I mean, basically, I'd say 60% of the brands that I speak to begin with have only ever done the glossy stuff.
Yes.
They've maybe more than 60%. They've never even thought about influencer marketing, let alone putting the budget to one side and having a plan and a strategy to work with influencers. But having worked on both sides, I've asked businesses like Dissident to create glossy marketing materials, which always come back amazing. And it's always an amazing portfolio piece that you want your customers to see, because it gives a really great example of what is the product or service that you're offering. And that's like your core, that's your hub. That's when someone's interested in what it is that you are selling. That's what I always found. But the problem is, you need to get somebody interested first, and you need to have that awareness. It's all that awareness, interest funnel, and desire and everything.
All those touch points.
But that awareness sphere it's an expensive sphere for a brand to be in, and if you're not careful, you can do it in the wrong way. So, when I was doing all of my research, when I worked in the corporate world, all I broke it down to was, what's going to give you the most bang for your buck? And so what's going to give you the most views with your target audience for the amount of money you're spending? And without a doubt, when I looked at all of it, it came down to influencers. Because at the end of the day, you are creating something with somebody who they might not be a creative agency, so they might not have all the special cameras, and they might not be able to make the glossy pieces, but they're definitely making something that people are resonating with, and they've got proof of that because they've been doing it for years. They've got the following, and they get the engagement and the numbers. So you can rely on them to do that work for you. They can create the content and share it and get the reach. And if you choose the right influencers, you also kind of piggyback off their authenticity as well. And that's a big deal. There's a lot of brands that don't consider, when you're doing business with an influencer, that they are risking their authenticity by backing your brand or products. So there's that element. Those two go together really well. You hook somebody in with your influencer work, or even a little in-house setup that your staff can do. There's loads of really good examples on TikTok, especially, of where like an in-house marketing team have just gone and done like some really crazy raw footage stuff, and it's worked. It doesn't always work though. And then obviously when someone's interested, they come through to a brand page where there's like 50% of it is, or maybe more, is the glossy stuff. They learn more about the brand, the products, the services, the people behind it. They go to the website. Maybe it's a little bit more higher spec there, so you're getting like really into longer form glossy videos then, and then you've sold your product or service. So that's how I see it. That's how I broke it down. It's kind of like, it was taught to me in university. It's the difference between advertising and an advert and a corporate video. So an advert is something that grabs your attention when you weren't looking for it. So that could be influencer marketing. It could be obviously a paid
campaign or something like that. Advertising is very much a case of like, I wasn't looking for this thing and now it's found its way to me. So that could be, again, through influencers and stuff like that. Whereas a corporate video is something that you create for people who have already shown interest. So that's where you go for your more information, your details. You want to get excited about the specs, and you want to see like the glossy video with the clever lighting and the beautiful graphics and the breakdowns of the tool or the service or whatever.
But brands make the mistake of asking influencers to do what you've just said.
They try and make influencers do a corporate video.
Yes.
Yeah, which breaks authenticity to some extent.
And it completely flops.
What about the hybrid? So I like leaving. So I've said this on the podcast before. We're very much governed by our clients. We'll guide them in some respects into what we think is right. But eventually they're paying. But we'll say let those guys let's call them influencers. Let the influencers be influencers. Let them do their thing. Put in a loose contract. Put in loose terms. Because they're not an agency, they can't just go and make a thing if it doesn't exist yet. They still, most of the time, these guys have still got jobs. Let those guys do their thing. Let it be raw. Let it be unfiltered, and let it be them. Let us do our thing. And then there's like this sweet spot in the middle where we're like, we've got, let's say, 4 or 5 ambassadors for this particular brand. Let's bring those guys in for our high production content, and we can kind of combine the two. We can do something where that's going out on our platform though. It could go out on theirs if you wanted to, because there's, again, you don't want to break the consistency of having, if all of your content has a particular look, and then Dissident make a film that looks wildly different. Yeah, you might want to share it for a little bit and get rid of it off the feed or something like that.
Yeah.
Have you had much experience in kind of that element where you've kind of gone like, I know I saw the guys that who did the regatta shoots recently. Did you see that?
Yeah,
it was like
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen the images.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
That clever thing of let's not use models. Let's use actual personalities, and you get that kind of best of both worlds and stuff. What's your thoughts on that?
So I'm only in this game. I've only been in this influencer game a couple of years now. And so it's taken me at least a year to get in front of brands which might be making those types of decisions, right? And so just coming at it from an influencer point of view, I have delivered content. So I've delivered a speech to a camera in front of a room full of people.
Okay.
Off the cuff, let's say. And then use that for like YouTube videos or whatever. And it's only when a brand sees you do that as a content creator, they're like, okay, then that's a skill that we don't have in-house. We would have to pay an actor or a model or somebody to do that for us. How can we now then include that person in our more corporate stuff, our interest videos? So you then, I guess, you ring fencing a group of influencers who are part of your awareness team, and then maybe picking a couple of those influencers out and just putting them into that interest team.
Yeah, into the corporate side of things, and that's okay. Do you think that kind of breaks authenticity for the influencers?
No, because
as long as it's done the right way, I suppose
it has to be done the right way. But for example, like this is a tricky situation to be in when you're sponsored as an influencer by a brand.
Yeah. So
I've got 2 main sponsors right now, DeWalt and CT1, and I personally chose to work with them because for example, DeWalt, I've used them since day one.
Yeah.
They are a great tool brand. Everyone knows it.
Yeah.
Like it's an amazing opportunity to work with them and be sponsored by them. CT1, they are an unbelievable product, probably the best sealant and adhesive in the industry. And I say that without worrying about the repercussions, because it actually is at the moment anyway. So why not work with that best if I can? And luckily I've got them as a sponsor, so I work with them, and that hopefully my authenticity isn't compromised, because although yes, I am working closely with a company and I'm using their products and tools in the content that I make, I genuinely believe in those things anyway.
Yeah,
and it's
super easy.
about delivering that to your audience and making sure that they understand that and all influencers should do this, are not going to sell out and just become someone who pushes for no reason, just like pushes products for just make a little bit of money.
It's I think it's an interesting one, and it's one that crops up in a conversation I had the other day with a potential brand, and we went through some like idea development, and they were looking to do some. They're like a tool brand that does like a ton of different power tools and stuff like that, and we were coming up with this concept of like having a presenter, someone who's like in the field, not one of the sales guys, someone who's actually kind of on the tools, to talk about their massive range of tools, have them available on a regular basis that can talk well to camera, presents well, and has availability to be going for multiple shoot days and stuff. And it's got to be a content creator. It's got to be an influencer. That's got to be the one. And it's like someone who can go in with build a studio, build a set, and be able to shoot, I don't know, 15 videos in a day. Just knock out a load of content on these particular tools. And I'm seeing that more and more is this kind of the need for essentially like an ambassador in some respects, but one that can actually come in and do professional, kind of like not really adverts, but you know what I mean, like almost a QVC style. This is this, and this is how it. Then do some demos, but have that be consistent. And I think ambassador is the way forward in that kind of thing. Someone who like not only gels with the brand, but knows the products and knows the applications and can relate to the end user in that respect. The trouble is with that is like how close they are to the brand or wherever this product's going to be filmed, and some of the best ambassadors are miles away from where the studio is and stuff like that. That's the thing that we find really, really tricky. I don't know, maybe we can get DeWalt or something on some kind of like ambassador, regular YouTube studio type content, because I think you're the only person locally to us that we know to do that kind of thing. But that's a big thing is having content creators that do well in front of a film crew.
Yeah, so there's an example of that. There's a guy called Simon Bowler. I have a lot of respect for that guy.
Milwaukee guy, isn't he?
He is Milwaukee, and he is acting as kind of like an ambassador on their behalf because he does his own content, but he also films for them as well. So he does that. He's going from that awareness to that interest bubble and creating the more glossy stuff. And the brand comes down with all their cameras, or the agency that they hire comes down with the cameras and does a proper shoot. I know as an influencer and as a presenter, he likes that type of stuff. And I've had opportunities like that sent my way as well. Really, the only people I want to be doing that for are DeWalt. So I'm looking for an opportunity to be doing that with DeWalt. They already have two guys that do a similar thing for them. And I didn't know that until I recently went to their headquarters. But those guys are people who have been in the trade a long time, and they've just built a relationship up with DeWalt, and now they use the products. They're almost like in-house product experts that can talk to video. I think the issue that they've got there is that these in-house product experts don't actually have any following. There's no way of reach. And they're not content creation experts. So although they might know the tools, they can't, and they can deliver to a camera, they can't do any of the rest of it, which means they would still have to post it through an advertisement, which would cost a lot of money or something like that, or just put it on the brand's social media channel. So for me, a next step for my relationship with DeWalt next year, logical conclusion would be that I can do some videos for them on the more glossy side and talk about the products and what they're used for and all that type of stuff, and actually help that be delivered.
Because you get the best of both worlds. Then you've got a brand ambassador. Then you know the gear. You're on the tools, but also you can bring that clout that social media clout. So you got the double whammy there of like, not only is this a great piece of content that can live on its own, but also your following can kind of come with it, essentially. So
they have like a DeWalt van, which is, well, a van, it's a lorry, and it's all kitted out and it looks ace. And I don't know if they make content in that, but that kind of made me think about, well, if you have a van or just like, say it's a motorhome, for example. I've seen these at some like golf days and stuff where the brands go and like a famous player might go into them and have all the clubs fitted out on the day and all that type of stuff. So why can't somebody create one of those as like a podcast and YouTube studio like you're on about? And then someone just has to drive it to wherever that location is, park it up for a week, do a load of content, maybe that works. Yeah. It'd be better if it was a building.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, there's
a building
options
in the Midlands, perhaps, in central Staffordshire, something like that. That's cool. We could make that happen, I think.
For sure, yeah. I'll see what they say.
Cheers, mate. Appreciate that. That's the only reason why we do this podcast is so we can ask influencers if we can work with their brands.
That's it. Now you've delivered it. Now I can get
it's out there. It's out there, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been a proper eye opener as well to your process, and I think that's going to be really valuable to the audience. Is that kind of the behind the scenes of the process and what goes into making. Not only your content, but building your audience and kind of what you had to do and sacrifice to do that. And also, I think it's surprising and nice to hear the story of it. There wasn't really a strategy initially. It happened. A few amazing things happened at one time, and you were like, "This is cool. I'm going to continue on this thread." Have you got any last questions, Keelan?
What's next for Scott DIY?
Oof, it's a big one. So there's been a few ideas floating around on this subject, and to be honest, I'm yet to nail one fully down.
Okay.
So the ideas I have to basically dig down to what it is that I personally really want to do, because the ideas can go off so many different directions. If I wanted to do something just for views and clout, I would move to Canada and build a log cabin on the side of a lake by myself.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Living off just tuna.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I'm the sort of guy with the drive and motivation that could go and do that. Like, if I really needed to, I would do. Would I enjoy it? No. Yeah. Do I want to do that in my career right now? No. So I need to find out where the middle point is of like what it is that I want to do, but is also interesting to the public. And there's a variation of ideas that I've got going on, and choosing one is the trick.
Okay. So we've got options. It's just we haven't decided.
I think though, whatever it is that I am going to choose will need to begin at least summertime 2025. It's got to begin then and no later, because my house is coming to a point where it's getting close to completion. And like anyone who owns a house knows, there's 1,000,001 jobs you can keep doing forever. I can keep improving things that don't always need improving. But for me personally, I like renovating things or building things completely from scratch. So it's either, if you were to really kind of narrow it down, next steps could be a really cool concept house. So something that's like really battered or very old, or something like that needs renovation, or a very interesting new build.
Yes.
And it's one or the other, and I don't know what it is yet.
So the problem that Scott DIY has got is he's done everything too quickly, and now you need another house. You need another build. Yeah. I mean, that's a big problem to have, though, isn't it? Like you physically, like, your content is based around renovating a house that's you've done a good job on. So,
well, the benefit for me is, I mean, there's loads of benefits in terms of like my business, earning the money and doing and all that type of stuff. But for me, I love to make things and restore things and stuff like that. So I've got to play into that, because there's a big difference between someone who's behind a camera who's saying, I'm doing this today, or someone who's like genuinely passionate and I'm like, I'm doing this today.
Yeah.
You know, like I can't wait to get involved in this. I've never done it before, but we're going to give it the best shot. And that's who I want to be in my content, like I have been up to date.
Yeah.
So whatever it comes next, it's going to be in that line.
It's got to be like passion driven. You've got to be like, come along for the journey. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited for whatever comes your way, Scott. I really appreciate you sharing your story and some of the behind the scenes of how you get to 408K on Instagram, and long may that growth continue. We look forward to seeing your more long form stuff on YouTube as well. I'm looking forward to getting my teeth into that. I think that's it, Keelan, isn't it? We're good? You got any more questions? Is there anything that I should have asked you that you feel like you were dying to speak about? Was there anything?
There's probably two things.
Okay.
And they're not big things.
Okay.
But it's about, so it's just from my side of being an influencer and getting asked a lot by content creators who might not have grown so quickly or are on this content creation journey. And they ask, and they ask, how do I get what you've got? How do I grow so quickly? How do I learn what you've learned? Like, what is the secret sauce?
What's the shortcut?
Yeah, what's the shortcut? And I think it's a really important message to say to those people that it really is a short-term pain, long-term gain scenario. You're going to work for a year getting nothing, at least before you start seeing some return on the time investment, you know, and then over that, and then eventually you'll start picking bits up, and you can try and run with it as best you can. But it's a painful game to be in. Mm-hmm. And the second thing is probably on the flip side. So it's like from brand perspective, it's that I did kind of briefly touch on it before, that brands don't know much about influencer marketing,
especially not in construction.
And they should start to learn about it. Learn about it now before your competitors are doing it.
Yeah.
Get that edge, create content, get viral views, and get your brand out there quickly and easily. And the more you learn about it now as well, it's going to put that brand in a better position, because there's a lot of people who are maybe older in the construction industry. They're a bit scared of what this influencer thing is. Are they going to be taken for a mug by somebody? It's because it's a person at the end of the day, and they're not going to get the value out of it. But you only learn by doing in life.
Yes.
And when it's proven to be one of the biggest marketing channels in the world, and it's only growing, it's billions now being invested into marketing for influencers, you've got to get ahead of that curve, or at least on the curve. You know, you can't just let it pass you by.
Yeah, absolutely. I think 2025 is going to be a big year for influencer marketing for brands. We're seeing the trend in the conversations that we're having, not just with our clients, but prospective clients. They're coming to us because they see that we've got relationships with a good network of influencers, and that's almost been like an accidental in with these brands. And it's absolutely massive. One of the things that I keep meaning to touch on, but I haven't, because I don't really know what the answer is to this kind of thing, but it's something that I might just briefly bring up just right at the end of this episode, is brand exclusivity is one of the challenges with especially construction, because there's a lot of brands that will do a multitude of different products that actually kind of push themselves into different product verticals. And they might only do like one or two products in that particular range. But then if you're let's say a DeWalt guy, and they bring out a product that is something that's aligned with another type of brand that you want to work with, and then you've got kind of almost like an exclusivity kind of thing with DeWalt that kind of blocks you out of that market. What's the solution to that, do you think? I'm still trying to struggle, apart from the fact that you have contracts that say, listen, like, I will work with you on these particular types of things. Yeah. You have a range of products here. I'm going to work with you in this range here because I want the options to do that kind of thing. Have you thought about that and discussed that with brands in the past?
I haven't had to discuss it, really. I've only had to discuss it once, but exclusivity is expensive for the brand.
Yeah.
Expensive, and it should be, because the influencer is losing a lot of money. So I got asked by a brand, very well-known tool brand, not DeWalt, to be exclusive with them on their tools, which also included hand tools. So not just power tools, but hand tools. And I did a bit of a cost breakdown. It wasn't really anything too scientific about how much that could potentially lose my business over the year, just through other collaborations. So that isn't the price of what I would be just for what they want me to do.
Yes.
That's what I will lose. So that's just added on top.
There's a term for that, isn't there? It's the opportunity cost.
Yeah, that's it. So it's kind of like, based on what I've had in the past and even the growth that I'm looking at anyway, like, how much is that going to be? It was a significant fee, and I was surprised to see that number. But the numbers don't lie. Like, I didn't make it up to myself. I wasn't making it up as I was working it out. I was just surprised to see it. So when I went back to the brand, I knew how they would react, and while it's safe to say I didn't do exclusivity with them, and to be honest, I didn't really want the exclusivity at that point with that brand. It was just too far of a stretch. If they pay me all that money, I would have probably sat back and gone, I'm going on holiday.
Yeah, what's expected of me?
Yeah, exactly. But now they're going to want blood, you know, for that sort of money. But as my journey progresses, and as my following increases and the community gets warmer and the brands that I work with are more aligned with me, that exclusivity conversation isn't as scary.
No.
And because I have the big platform, the bigger brands aren't going to be as scared about putting that budget forward either.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's that's massive. The concern is, DeWalt bring out an adhesive. And you go, I'm only working with a bloody adhesive company, or whatever, and so it gets dodgy. And I was speaking to another brand, I can't remember who it was the other day, and they were saying, like, everybody's doing it. There's trends in construction where brands are bringing out sort of ancillary products. I don't even know if that's the right term, but they're usually in this vertical, and they've kind of branched out into this vertical. And they're going to making a big push on that, and we're like, why? There's already big players in here, but it makes it quite difficult for the content creators. And we've experienced this where they've gone, well, I already work with a brand that does that kind of thing.
I would put this to a brand and say, and I have put this to brands and say, one of the best things about me and my account is my authenticity. The reason why that is because I'm not like, this isn't a DeWalt showroom, for example. There isn't a DeWalt poster behind me. I am not wearing all DeWalt clothes. And don't get me wrong, all of the clothes are amazing, the tools are amazing, all that sort of stuff. But there are times where you want to use a different clothing or a different brand for any other reason than just it looks cool or it's your style, whatever it could be. So, and that actually contributes to your authenticity. So if you want people to believe in the influence that you're working with, what you're paying for, that's what you need.
Amazing. Scott, we're gonna have to wrap it up there because Keelan's giving me the nod. We've got 0 minutes. Thank you so much, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, mate.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. And good to talk to you again.